This is the new Zoom TKL, Meletrix Studio's new entry offering. Yo, YBBK here. In this video, I'll be taking a look at Meletrix Studio's new entry offering, the Zoom 87, or better known as the Zoom TKL. Starting at 179 USD, it makes this board the most affordable full aluminum TKL as of now. I'll have more information on the group buy at the end of the video. So, a quick rundown. It features a TKL layout, hot soft flex cut PCB with Bluetooth, VS software support, ambient lighting, CNC aluminum nano coated case, and an absolutely stunning bottom weight. The version I have here is in lilac with a lilac glass back, but there are many other configurations offered as well. To be specific, 10 case and 12 backplate options can be mixed, allowing for up to 240 combinations. Before we move on to the unboxing, a quick word from my sponsor, PCBWay. Your one-stop shop for all DIY tech projects is PCBWay. They provide sophisticated PCB prototyping, production, assembly, and populating. Additionally, they offer injection molding, sheet metal fabrication, CNC machining, and 3D printing. Numerous sub-options are available under each of these services, allowing you to customize the criteria to your needs. The range of materials, finishes, and degree of precision available for CNC machining are just a few examples. The pricing is competitive, and their website and purchase process are both very user-friendly. The description will include a link to their website if you're curious to learn more. Back to the video. The kit comes in a black carrying case, which is nice if you ever need to bring the board around. Opening it up, there are two sections. Let's start with the top. Within, it contains a pair of extra rubber feet, a full set of WK Studio screw and stabilizers, a braided coil USB-C cable, screws and an Allen key for the case, and another bag containing the gaskets and foams. The provided gaskets are silicone jackets, which seem to be the standard now for this kind of mounting style. There are foams for the bottom case, PCB, and plate, which all use dense porous material. There's also a switch pad included, but it isn't actually PE foam, rather close to some kind of plastic. This should have the same effects as PE foam, however, but the sound will just be a bit more muted. Moving on to the main section, for retail units, there will be two default plate options, polycarbonate and aluminum. However, I received an additional FR4 and carbon fiber plate to test out. These extra plates can be purchased separately. Each plate comes with a bag containing optional standoffs if you choose to use them. Underneath is a hot soft flex cut PCB, which I'll have a more detailed look later on. Next is a 2250 mAh battery for the wireless mode. This will come standard in all kits. Meletrix states that this should last around 6 to 8 weeks of use. And finally, the highlight of this kit, the case. As mentioned earlier, the case colors are nano-coated, which Meletrix claims to be smoother and more premium compared to anodization. However, compared to my other anodized boards, for my lilac unit at least, the nano-coating feels more textured and looks more matte. This isn't a bad thing by any means, just putting it out there for a more realistic idea of how the case looks and feels. As for quality control, although this is just a prototype unit, I didn't notice any obvious machining marks or defects. It features a 5-degree typing angle and a chamfered front lip, allowing for a relatively comfortable typing experience without a wrist rest. The top of the case extends outwards over the bottom, creating a cliff design which, in my opinion, allows for a pretty clean, premium look. The bottom has hints of the TGR Jane, especially with the two-part weight design. The purple gradient glass on my unit, in my opinion, adds to the premium look. A stainless steel back weight is also available if you're interested in that. On the sides, you can spot the LED diffusers for ambient lighting, more on that later. Finally, unlike the screwless design on the Zoom 65, the holes from the TKL are accessible from the outside, which allow for easier disassembly. On the note of disassembly, I quickly opened up the board to take a look at the optional internal stainless steel weight. It weighs around 350 grams and should help reduce hollowness and ping. A closer look at the inner case shows that once again, no noticeable machining marks or defects. This board does use a daughter board which should allow for more flex. Before I move on, I install the battery. There is no provided adhesive to hold it in place, so I just use some tape. With that done, let's move on to the PCB. It features south-facing sockets from TKL and supports up to 5-pin switches. Just a reminder that there is no perky RGB, the only lighting is from the two side LED strips. This board does support via software, and said LEDs can be controlled within. One thing I found interesting is that the PCB supports multiple layouts even while being hot swapped. This is pretty cool as it means you can build a layout according to your needs. For example, you can have a 7U or 6.25U spacebar, step caps or normal caps, and stuff like that. With the flex sets, the typing feel should feel quite cushioned, but it also leads to a dampened sound. I'll talk more about this later after the sound test. As for the Bluetooth capability, it can connect up to 3 devices. Alright, with all the parts out of the way, I started the build by first tuning the stabilizers. I began by balancing the wires, then I applied the Holy Mod with the included Teflon strips. Afterwards, I lube up the housings with 205 grade 0, reinsert the stems, and lube the wires with dielectric grease. One interesting thing about these stabilizers is that the wire actually clips in from the bottom rather than the usual top. This ensures that they won't pop out during use. Pretty clever. Once installed on the PCB, I move on to the switches. WK Studio sent out some of their new WS core switches for me to try out. These are linears with a full polycarbonate housing, nylon long stem, and a 60-gram spring. They come factory lubed and are incredibly nice stock. I didn't notice any spring ping or significant scratchiness. Since the current config I'm building is no foams, I'll first install a few switches onto the plate as alignment and install the rest afterwards. Once complete, I slide on the gasket jackets, connect the JST and battery cables, and screw everything back together. That brings us to our final component, keycaps. For this build, I'll be using the white on black set from PPT Fans. These are double shot PPT cherry profile keycaps, and although a bit pricey, they are notably better than the typical Alfie ABS sets I use. The legends are more consistent, the caps have more texture, and from my experience, are less prone to fingerprints. Anyways, after throwing them on, here's the sound test. For the next config, I removed the internal stainless steel weight. So personally, I like how it sounds cleaner with the internal weight, so I'll reinstall that for the remainder of the test. For the next config, I added both PCB and plate foam. For the final configuration, I changed the aluminum plate to the polycarbonate plate while keeping the foams. Alright, so without the foams on the alu plate, although it didn't sound bad, it was a bit bland. Along with that, there was some noticeable hollowness. Removing the internal weight only made things worse, so I decided to keep it for the remainder of the sound test. Adding the PCB and plate foam helped a fair amount in reducing the mentioned hollowness and cleaning up the sound. The pitch was also pushed towards the higher end, and some life was brought out. Changing the plate to polycarbonate resulted in a huge difference though. The spacebar no longer sounded hollow, each key press was more clear, and the pitch became even higher. I personally love this kind of clacky sound paired with a sharp, defined spacebar. Being said, the PC plate with PCB and plate foams is by far my favorite config. I didn't have much time to try out the other plates, but I'll probably do a rebuild video in the near future experimenting with them. I do have one complaint though. The numerous flex sets across the PCB, although allowing for a nicer typing feel, results in a loss of sound, making the board sound more muted and bland. Although the PC plate and foams kind of fixed this issue of blandness, they added to the muted part. I'd say one of the major factors in why my build doesn't sound as quiet is due to the quartz switches, heavy springs, and long pulls, which accentuate the sound. I saw Clackbait tape the flex sets in his Luna 80 build for a similar issue, and it did kinda help. I'll probably be trying this in the rebuild video, but for now, the board sounds amazing as is, and I'm quite satisfied. I found that the gasket implementation on this board could have been better. There aren't any grooves on the top or bottom case allowing room for the gaskets to sit in. Instead, the surface is flat along the entire length. This results in the gaskets being overcompressed when the case is closed. As a result, I noticed even throughout all the configurations, majority of any bounce came from the plate and PCB flex sets rather than from the gaskets. I believe this compression also leads to a deeper sound as there's more emphasis on the case rather than directly from the PCB. Personally, I would have liked to see a more traditional approach by implementing grooves and using proper pour-on gasket strips. Another thing I noticed on my and other reviewers' prototype unit is that there is light leakage from the side LEDs. However, this issue will be fixed on the retail units, so all good. Aside from that and the flex sets, the Zoom TKL is all around a solid board, providing an excellent deal. The Essentials Edition Barebone Kit, which is the one I have here, group buy is running from now till November 29th, with the Assemble Edition to be released soon. The board should ship out to customers during January of next year. One thing I wanted to mention is the expensive shipping costs directly from Meletrix. I live in Toronto and was quoted a whopping 72 USD, not to mention any import fees. Being said, I highly recommend you check out your local vendor first, as they should be more affordable. Anyways, if you found this video helpful, consider leaving a like or subscribing, it really helps my channel out.